shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round. Hi there, my name's Tercy Engelhardt, and I want to welcome you to the Unreasonably Grateful podcast, Living in Grace by Choice. So, welcome. Grateful to have you be here. Thank you for being a part of my journey and allowing me to be a part of your journey. For those of you that have been with me for a good while now, I'm so grateful for what we've walked through together, what you shared with me, and what you've invited and allowed me to share with you. And today's no different. So thank you for being here. Just a reminder, I don't have your answers. You do. However, sometimes in conversation with other people and sharing, particularly if they're sharing an experience or their story, we can see something about ourselves. Something gets triggered, something gets inspired, something opens up. We hear it in a new way and it leads us to take our next step. And I do believe that we're journeying together to discover more of who we are. In particular, that's the focus of this last episode and this episode. Who we were created to be, and to let go of some of those wounds and defenses from those wounds, oftentimes from our past. So grateful that you're here. Thank you for being here. Okay, so this is a continuation of the last episode. So the last episode was living in alignment, and this episode's called "What is Your Calling?" So I want to go back and just recreate a couple of things. So a calling is like a North Star. It's an original intent. It's who you are, how you were designed, the gifts and the talents that you've been given. And, it reminds me of at the farmer's market this weekend, there was a very young boy, like maybe 5. And he was on his way to a piano recital. And I asked him, "Are you good?" He goes, "Pretty good." And his parents were there, and I talked to them and said, "How did you discover that he was musical or musically talented?" And they said, "Well, we had both our kids, and he had an older sister take piano lessons when they were young, started when they were young. And his older sister was no longer taking piano, but they discovered he was gifted and skilled and kind of couldn't get enough, just soaked it in. And here he was at a very young age on his way to a recital. And it made me think about the work that we're doing as a calling, just like, I don't know what it's like for you, but when I listen to something like America's Got Talent and you see some very, very young child and all of a sudden they open up their mouth and they sing full on opera. And I'm like, how does that happen? Well, I want you to consider that it's not just like them. We all have gifts that we've been given. And you don't have to discover these when you're young. Sometimes we discover them very late in life. And it doesn't matter what you do because it's not related to what you do. Your gifting will show up in whatever it is that you do because your gifting is kind of universal. It starts with you. It's about you. But ultimately, it's about humanity. It's about the contribution that we are. And how our gifting feels fulfilled is when it is received by other people. When we see it show up with others, that's how we actually experience the fulfillment of that. It's not for us. It begins with you, but it's not about you. It's actually about the fulfillment, the bigger picture, the fulfillment of it in life. So you could be in your senior years and be discovering your calling. It's not just something that you might discover in your younger years. So just to share that briefly. So last week, what I left you with was, what's your life for? What inspires you? What's your life about? And you kind of keep doing that work. I suggested journaling, and you keep doing that and looking at it. And you look through your life, how much ever life you've currently lived, and you'll be able to see some threads that kind of weave through the entire life. And it's kind of like pulling them and unraveling it. You'll discover what's at the core of that. Why that? Why did you choose that? what had you say yes to this? What had you move or step in that direction? What was this particular event about? And what you're looking for, what you want to get to is times and places in your life when you felt completely fulfilled. You were inspired. It wasn't efforting. It wasn't because you got paid for it. It was something that fulfilled you. If it had all ended then, it would have been okay. So that's what you're looking for. So you keep on doing that work. And then what I do is kind of, flesh out those moments. For example, who was there? What was being said? Where was I? What was the environment? So you're kind of looking at what were the circumstances surrounding that had you or me experience that moment of kind of aha fulfillment. So that's what you're getting to. And then you want to keep asking yourself, and why is that so important? What is that? Why is that so important? And it may seem repetitive that you're asking yourself that question over and over and over again, but ultimately you'll get to some response of, because it just is. It's just what is. You're actually, there's no longer a justification, or it's not reasonable. It's not given or created by reason. It's beyond that. It's at the depth of who you are. It just is. That's where you're getting. And sometimes you can even ask yourself, like, what are some of the emotions that were present? How was I feeling? And again, you're just digging in to kind of further discover what was at the core of that. That's going to be your calling, whatever that is. Now, how do you verbalize, or how do you state a calling? Remember, it begins with you, but it's not about you. So the way that I was taught, the way that my dear teacher taught me was, a calling is, my calling is, and then it's like, it's always going to be people. My calling is people, because the fulfillment of a calling shows up in others. So my calling is people, and then there will be some kind of experience, some adjective, experiencing. So what is it that when it shows up in others, it could be, my calling is the community, my calling is whatever it might be, but it's going to be bigger than you. It's beyond you. So for example, my calling is people experiencing how loved they are, like them actually having the experience of being loved. When I see that in others, I am fulfilled. My calling is fulfilled. So it begins with me, and it's personal to me, but it's not about me, because your gifting, your calling, it's like that boy. He went to do a recital. It wasn't like he played piano at home, or the child who's an opera singer. She sings for others. She doesn't just sing for herself. Or, for example, Chris is the young man who does our construction, and he did all of our construction at our previous farm, at Bela Farm. He would come and work all winter in California from Idaho, where there's a full-on winter, and he could work outside in California, and he built that farm. And now we live here, and he works here, and he has a shop, and in the winter he does a lot of his timber framing for the structures in the shop. And I asked him the other day, as I looked up at this completely beautiful timber frame interior to this kitchen that we're building, and I said, did you always like construction? He said, yeah, I love building. I said, were you like really good at Lincoln logs? That's what I could associate with a young child. And he goes, I don't know that I ever had Lincoln logs, but I always loved building and creating things and putting things together. And I think it was my husband who told me that when he was young, he built this amazing tree house where his parents live, which is now a developed area with housing. It was all woods, and he went out into the woods and built this incredible tree house. So what is that? So for Chris, it's like creating with his hands, building, constructing. And, I can think this must be exhausting for him, because he also does all of our construction without drawings. There's no plans, there's no drawings, there's no measurements. It's all in his head. And he builds these beautiful buildings, not small buildings, but beautiful buildings. And they're square and they're plumb and they're gorgeous. And timber framing is, without nails. It's like pegs and holes. And it's like incredible. And that's a gift. That's part of his gifting. And for him, well, yes, it's the work that he does to get paid. It's also how he shows up in the world, how he dreams, how he sees things. So while it may be connected to what you're doing, it's who you are that has you do that. But it's the who you are part that comes first. So that's the next step. And how you state that. And you can plug in words and try it, and there will be something that will begin to click. It'll just resonate with you. It'll be beyond you're just thinking that or you're guessing that. It'll be something that, oh no, that's it. So who my calling is, and there will be some representation outside of yourself. My calling is some bigger collection of others. And then there'll be some adjective. What are they? They're experiencing. They're whatever it is. I can't. They're remembering. They're discovering. They're exploring. There'll be some action, some verb or adjective, some action. And then what is it that they're actually discovering or exploring or experiencing? Or so that's the next layer that you want to keep to it. And you keep doing that. You can plug in the words, say it again, plug in the words, say it again. And you keep doing that until you come up with something that actually resonates. You get, oh, that's who I am. That calls me forward. That inspires me. And it doesn't mean that it won't shift or change with time. There may be seasons in your life where how you express your calling and how you experience it may be different. When we did this work for our company, the calling was, our calling is love is served. So we were both in service to love, and we were serving love. So that's an even bigger, a collective calling of an organization. So that's the work you keep doing. All right. So that's what I want you to do this week. And keep doing it. Keep asking yourself, why is this important to me? Why is this important to me? Look at your life. Look at those moments when you felt fulfilled or inspired. Why? What is it? Why did I make that choice? Until you get to the place because you just did, because it's who you are. It's not just something you did. It's a true north expression of who you are created to be. And then as you verbalize it, use the statement, my calling is, and then some collective group, something bigger than yourself, having some kind of experience, some action, adjective or verb, and what is it that they're actually experiencing. And then you repeat your calling over and over again until you kind of refine it down. And then you get to, that's who you are called to be. That's your calling. And it won't matter necessarily what you do. Your calling can show up in anything and everything that you do. I'll be here next week, and I look forward to seeing you then. And you can always share your calling with me in either a chat, a comment, or send an email. All right. I look forward to seeing you.